You're watching Let the Quran Speak. Now we answer questions we've received from you, our viewers. If you have a question yourself, please visit our website, www.quranspeaks.com. Okay, Brother Shabir. This is a question about someone who wasn't a Muslim, committed unlawful sexual intercourse, and wants to know if, after becoming a Muslim, would still be subject to punishment under Sharia law.
No, the law about this affects Muslims, and one who did something prior to becoming a Muslim and then embraces Islam would not be penalized under this law. The law would, however, take into consideration acts which harm other people. So if there was such an act, let's say there was an act of rape, then this is a harm to somebody else. So that would have to be taken into account and would be penalized under the legal system in a country that is governed by Islamic law, even though the act was done prior to a person becoming a Muslim.
Now, what about in this country? What would your advice be to someone who has committed a sexual act unlawfully? And of course, there's no sort of system of Sharia law being applied in this country. What would an individual do?
Where the Sharia law is not applied, one would seek forgiveness from God and keep the matter to oneself, not publicize one's deeds. There's no sense in coming public and say, this is what I did. But what God has kept secret, we should also keep secret. And of course, harms to other people should not be kept secret, but should be repaired. And if there's a sin that only involves one's own person, then one keeps that between oneself and God, but does everything to seek the forgiveness of God, asking God for His forgiveness, being determined not to return to the sin, following up that with a good action. And in the case of sins that encroach on the rights of other people, we should restore their rights to the best of our ability, and ask them for forgiveness as well if it is a sin that is known to them as well.
Okay. So another question about the Quran, and the person is asking, why does the Quran, why is it written in a voice that uses we, the term we? What does that refer to?
This is a majestic use of we, where God, to emphasize His powers and His majesty, His might, His ability to create, says we created the heavens and the earth. Whereas, of course, the Quran insists that there is only one God. So we might expect the singular, but the majestic plural is used in the Quran.
Okay. Another question, this one is about black magic. So the person is asking, does it actually occur, and what can one do to protect oneself against it?
In classical Islamic theology, it is thought that this black magic can actually occur, and that it is effective. There is even a narrative saying that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was on one occasion bewitched. But some other analysts of these traditions would think that the black magic is not by itself effective.
What would we define as black magic?
This would be some sort of unusual or supernatural occurrence that is affected by the use of devilish sources. So many Muslims would think that this does not actually occur. Maybe people are convinced. Maybe there are some psychological techniques that are used to convince people that such things happen, but in fact they do not actually take effect. And the best guard against such psychological tricks employed by others is to recite the last two chapters of the Quran, which says, the two which say, I seek refuge in God from the evils that are mentioned in those two surahs, as Surah 113 and 114.
So you think there isn't strong evidence to believe in the power of black magic then?
Let's take the traditions that are mentioned with regard to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It's said that he was under a spell of magic, and then eventually Ali, his son-in-law, went down into a well where he found that some hairs of the Prophet, peace be upon him, was there being kept under a stone. And once this was lifted, then the spell was lifted from the prophet, peace be upon him. But while he was under the spell, he was a little bit confused. Did he go visit one of his wives or not? Now, if we imagine this about the prophet, peace be upon him, then he was there as the leader of the community and he's under this magical spell. How would this actually happen in Islamic theology? There's several questions raised about this. And the best recourse is to think that if people had this sort of magic, they would be playing havoc with the world. Maybe some people would think that there is enough going on under the spell of magic. But the fact of the matter is that if there was such a power that is available, we would all be hankering after that power. And instead of going, belaboring and studying books at our universities where black magic is not being taught, we should be seeking out that power, because it seems that such occult powers would be greater than any other power we can muster by any other physical means. But the general feeling of people is that such powers do not exist. People don't have them. And they're not effective in any case, even if some people think that they're dabbling in some of the occult arts. And that's why we do not pursue such avenues. So why
Although some
imagine...
people do. Some people do go to these individuals in pursuit of black magic.
Some people do, but most of us have the better sense than to pursue this sort of avenue. So we should not think that this actually has some effect. In any case, the right way for the Muslims is to rely on God as the ultimate power over all things and to seek His help against whatever powers there might be out there. So if there is some such power, if there are people who are blowing on nuts as described in Surah 113, we ask God to protect us from all of their mischief and evil doings.
All right, thank you for that, Brother Shabir.
You're welcome.
That's all the time we have. For updates and additional information, please visit our website, www.quranspeaks.com. And write to us, because your comments and questions help guide the show. I'm Safiya Ali. For all of us here at Let the Quran Speak, thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.